Hello everybody, welcome back. I know on our channel in the past, and probably a lot of other agricultural farming channels that you view, farmers talk a lot about, what we're yielding, how the crops look, or maybe the price of a specific product, especially if it's gone up in price, maybe complaining about that and all that sort of stuff. But to my knowledge so far, I haven't seen a video that shows exactly what farmers make off of their row crops. What does it actually cost to raise these crops that we're growing? Line by line breakdown of exactly what it costs to put a crop in. So in this video, I'm going to address that. I'm going to show you kind of what our snapshot was of last year, what it cost, and then with the drastic increase in input prices that we're seeing this year, I'm going to show you line by line what it costs to actually put in a crop and how much profit we stand to make. So with the increased input costs this year, what does our potential profitability look like? And after analyzing the figures, I think you might be kind of surprised. So before we get started looking at the actual numbers, I want to preface all this by saying that the numbers you're going to see on this video today are not necessarily what you would see on another farm. There's a lot of different factors that really go into each farm's actual cost of production and what they can make. Just a change in a few practices can make these numbers vary wildly from one farm to the next. Also, you got potential differences in yields from one farm to the next, one part of the country to the next, the potential prices that farmer might see for their product from one part of the country to the next, how good that farmer is on the marketing, maybe what his strategy is on how he fertilizes the crop, how many seeds per acre he makes, whether he decides to spray one more time for insecticides or a herbicide or something like that. So, and the numbers on our farm are just going to be averages over the entire crop. These numbers can actually vary quite a bit from one farm to another. Just say, for example, fertilizer. Not each farm has the same amount of fertility as the next farm does, and we might apply different amounts of fertilizer on one farm trying to boost yields, but fertility is higher on another farm, and might not have to apply as much fertilizer on that farm to maintain yield. So just take all this with a grain of salt, realizing that your farming neighbor right down the road probably has completely different numbers than what we're going to show you right here. But these numbers should give you kind of just a general baseline on what farmers can make from their potential crops, and also what it costs to put those crops in. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get down the weeds and look at these numbers. All right, here we got our spreadsheet going. Created one just for this video, just to kind of give you an idea here. But we'll start off with corn, and we'll analyze the 4 crops that we go as we go through. All right, we'll start off, as you can see right here, we got a box for the last year, crop year 2021, and then over here on the left, we got what we're projecting for this year, crop year 2022. Let's start off, we'll show you what we did in 2021. For corn, we had an average yield of 175 bushels per acre. We received $5.29 per bushel. And then that's our gross profit right there, $925.75 a bushel. We'll enter in the expenses line item here on this box. First expense, fertilizer. Typed that wrong. All right, then also up here at the top of the box, we've got different shares. 100% share means that we pay all of the expenses, we get all of the input. 2/3 share means we get 2/3 of the income, and we pay 100% of some inputs, and the landlord pays a third of some inputs. So I'll automatically have that figured in here. Then we got an 80%, 20% share, whereas I pay 100% of all the inputs, and then the landlord gets 20% of all profits. So anyway, say our fertilizer expense for corn last year was $191 an acre, and then on 2/3 share, the landlords pay a third of all fertilizer. So you can see they've got our fertilizer cost is only $127.40 there. But then on the 80% share, I pay 100% of all expenses. So fertilizer was $191. See, seed cost was $76.19. On all shares, I pay 100% of the seed cost. Next one was, let's see, type that in. C. Next one is herbicide. I'll just go ahead and type in all the inputs here. Insecticide, and then fungicide. All right, our herbicide cost last year was $36.08. Our insecticide cost was $0 on corn because generally we don't have to apply any insecticides on corn. The BT trait generally takes care of the only problem we've got to worry about, which is worms. And I can't remember the last time we applied an insecticide on corn. So we'll leave that at $0. And then fungicide cost last year was $16.70. Look down there, our profit right here on 100% share is $606. 2/3 share is $675, and on 80%, 20% share is $606. And I know what you're thinking. Why are farmers complaining about being broke all the time? I mean, heck, $600 an acre, that's a pretty dadgum good profit. We got to pay the landlords. Put that down here. Rent. All right, 100% share. If we own the ground, we don't have to pay any kind of rent. But on our cash rent ground, well, we have to pay rent, but we get 100% of the proceeds on that too. So, our gross profit, if we own the ground, could be $600. But we'll put in a cash rent of $110 an acre, which again is widely different. Here in West Tennessee, we have a lot lower cash rents than what the guys do in the Midwest. So we'll put down 110 for that. Okay, share rents. Well, we got to pay a portion of the crop. That's going to be, for a 2/3 share, it's going to be $308.55. That's going to be 1/3 of the gross value, $925.75. And then on the 80/20 lease, we got to pay $185.15. And I know what you're thinking. Well, yeah, you got to pay rent, but that's still a lot of money per money you're making. I now understand why farmers are always driving around in brand new trucks every year. All right, well, there's one other thing we left out. Yeah, we've listed all the costs that it costs to actually plant the crop, fertilize the crop, spray the crop, take care of it and everything else. What does it cost to run the business, though? You got a lot of costs there. So we'll type in overhead. Now, this overhead includes every other thing. It includes equipment repair, labor, insurance, electricity, utilities. Everything that it costs to run a business, taxes, buying equipment, all of that kind of stuff. And it's practically impossible to figure out what your overhead cost exactly is for a specific crop, because so many things are used together, used for crops and used in different amounts in crops and everything else. And it's practically impossible to specify exactly what that overhead cost is for that crop. So we just got one overhead figure. We take all of our overhead expenses, we divide it by how many acres we plant, and that's what our overhead cost is. Maybe not as accurate as what we would like to be, but that's about what we can do. So anyway, last year our overhead cost per acre, $326.05. And of course, landlords don't pay in that, so that's going to be the same all the way across the board. That really takes a big old chunk out of our profit. Now, last year our overhead cost was inflated quite a bit because, well, we had pretty big purchases last year. The loadout bin, the repairs we did to the grain bin, we had some big repairs to the combine, and several other things that really raised our overhead cost up quite a bit more than what I was planning. I think last year I had $256 an acre budgeted before we had to do some of that stuff and before we planned to do some of that stuff. So, but still, corn was profitable. As you can tell, make the most profit off either the ground we own or our cash rent. We make the least amount of profit off the 2/3 share. And, the landlord makes a bigger chunk of the pie on that. But they deserve to, because on the 2/3 share, with them sharing into the actual cost of production, they deserve to make more per acre because they're sharing in the risk of producing the crop, and I'm giving away some of that risk by that type of lease agreement. So the more risk that a landlord incurs in producing the crop, the more profit potential they should be able to make. And then looking at the 80/20 share, uh, they're not sharing in the cost of the producing the crop, but they're sharing in the risk of what the crop can make. Whereas the landlord that's on a cash rent uh, lease, they're going to get a guaranteed fixed amount of dollars per acre every single year. Doesn't matter what the crop yields. If you have a crop failure, they're still going to get paid that cash rent. Whereas if they're on a share rent, if the crop has a failure, their income could go way, way down. So therefore, they're incurring more risk than the people on the cash rent. So in decent years, they should make more per acre than what the cash rent landlords do. All right, that's what we looked at last year. Made decent profit on corn. All right, let's look here at what we're projecting in 2022. Again, expenses going to be real high, but crop prices are going to be high too. So we'll see if they kind of balance out. Now for yield, we don't know what it's going to yield. We don't know what the weather's going to do or anything like that. So when I'm figuring projections, what I figure in is our 5-year average. That's about the safest thing we can do. It could be, I can about guarantee that the final yield's not going to be our 5-year average. It's probably going to be below it or it's going to be above it. But for predicting, the most accurate thing we can use is our 5-year average. Well, our 5-year average on corn is 173 bushels per acre. Crop prices are up. Right now, December futures around $6 a bushel. We just locked in a plus 25 cent on our basis. So we're going to say $6.25 per bushel. Whoa, look at that gross income right there. Almost $1,100 per acre. That's looking really good. All right, well, let's start whittling away at it and look at what our expenses are going to be for this year. Fertilizer, I talked about in our last video, fertilizer has shot way up, but we've got a strategy in place to lower our fertilizer use, especially on, say, the phosphorus and the potassium side. We can't do anything about nitrogen on corn. To maintain yield, we still got to put the nitrogen out, but we're going to try and cut our fertilizer costs by removing some of that fertilizer from our soil bank and only applying what we removed rather than trying to build like we have in the past. So our fertilizer cost this year for corn is predicted to be $273.02 an acre. All right, and then on 2/3 share, our cost is reduced down because the landlord's paying some of it. Seeds going up incrementally like it does every year. Looking at almost $78 for that. Herbicides is another one, but the cost is going up big time, especially Roundup and Liberty. We don't hardly use any Liberty on corn. We do use some Roundup though. So look at herbicides at $50.47 per acre. I typed that wrong. 7. Insecticides, no insecticides on corn. Fungicides, $16.70. Overhead. Our projected overhead cost this year is $286.47. Not planning any big purchases, but other things like fuel's going to go up. Our crop insurance is going to go up. There's some other stuff in there that's going to go up. And then rent, we'll leave rent, cash rent the same. Third share rent's going to be $345.97. 20% share is going to be $207.60. All right, well, there's what our profit potential is looking like on corn this year. Better than last year, even with the really big increase in fertilizer prices. But the increase in price from average price from $5.29 to $6.25 is more than accounting for what our increased cost of production is. So corn's looking pretty dang good this year. However, if we have a drought this year, say we get something that knocks our yield back to 150 bushels an acre, we could be in the red on 2/3 share. If we have a drought of, say, 2007 proportions, when we had a historical drought, let's just say make 120 bushels an acre, we're in the red all across the board. And then any change in our, if I don't do a good job marketing, say, prices drop down and I haven't booked any, say they drop down to $5.50 a bushel, that's about to putting us in the red on the 2/3 share again. So, there's a lot of factors that go in and determine what you're going to actually make profit wise on this. All right, we looked at corn. Let's move on to full season soybeans now. What we did last year, 63 bushels an acre, average price 10.06. And then for fertilizer, we had a cost of $102.94. Seed was 59. Herbicides was $27.87. Insecticides was $6.80. Fungicide was $11.88. We got our overhead costs already in there. Cash rent, $110 an acre. 2/3 rent was $211.23, and 80/20 rent was $126.75. All right, the picture's not so rosy on soybeans last year. My marketing last year on soybeans was not good. I told you about this in previous videos. We had a contract from 2020 that rolled forward to 2021 because I couldn't fill it in 2020. We had to take the difference in spread. We lost about almost $3 a bushel. We had really good production last year, so we were able to market some later on above that contract, and it raised our price up to a little over $10 a bushel. But if I hadn't had that bad contract, I probably would have marketed my soybeans somewhere around $12 a bushel. And then that puts us back in the green. But that's not what happened. This is what happened because I made a big mistake in marketing last year, and it wound up costing me. And when you grow crops, that's what happens. You're going to make mistakes that's going to wind up hurting your bottom line. And, we did lose a little bit of money on full season soybeans last year, but we made up for it in other crops. This is why we like to plant so many crops, is to spread the risk around, because there's good likelihood you're probably going to hit a home run in one of the crops, but there's also just as good a likelihood that you're going to fail in another crop. So you want to spread your risk around to make sure that overall you're going to be profitable for the year. Now, what does 2022 look like? Our 5-year average on yield is 62 bushels an acre. I'm predicting a $14 per bushel average price. I know January beans are trading above that right now, but out of all the crops, I think soybeans have the biggest chance of dropping off. And seeing as how it's February, we're still 2 months away from even thinking about planting a soybean. I don't want to book very much of my crop this early on, because then I'm forced to actually produce that crop and deliver that crop, and things could look a lot differently this spring and this summer. And I think a lot of other farmers are going to be planting a lot of soybeans, and if we have a decent growing year, that could drive the price down. But let's just say $14 per bushel soybeans is what I'm predicting. Now, soybeans don't need near as much fertilizer. Our predicted cost this year is $75.75, and the majority of that cost is going to be the cost of the chicken litter that we apply. Seed's going up a little bit, $61 acre for that. Herbicides going up, $45.28 is what we're predicting. Insecticides, half the time we don't have to apply any insecticides for soybeans, but I'm going to put $5 an acre in there. Fungicides, $12.50 an acre is what I'm predicting for that. Our rent, 110 cash rent. Third shares, $283.47. 80/20, $170.10. All right, profit potential is looking pretty good on full season soybeans. Compared to corn, it's actually looking like the profit potential for soybeans is a little bit better than corn. But I'm not planting many full season beans. Well, you say, well, why? If you look like you can make more profit off soybeans, why are you planting corn instead of soybeans? Well, the reason for that is that pretty much all the ground that we're going to be planting corn on has already been in beans the previous year, and in some fields it's been in beans the last 2 years. So what happens when you follow one crop with the same crop year after year? Your yields tend to go down a little bit. So my thinking is that if we plant 2, possibly 3 years of beans in a row on this ground that we're going to put corn on, we're probably not going to hit that 62 bushels an acre. Let's just say it drops off, say, 4 bushels an acre, 58 bushels per acre. At $14 a bushel, that's what this brings our profit down to. And then you see corn beats soybeans. So that's why we are planting a lot more corn than we are full season soybeans. Plus, I just like growing corn more. Okay, soybeans is an ugly crop. I like corn. I feel more confident in our abilities to produce that level of corn than I do on our abilities to produce that level of soybeans. I could be completely wrong. I mean, the road come this fall, this might be completely reversed, but I don't know that. This is the best I can figure at this time. So that's what we look like on soybeans. Now let's move on to cotton here. All right, last year, terrible year of cotton. We wound up losing money on cotton. After running all the numbers, we wound up losing money. But generally, cotton is our second highest net revenue crop. But we had a bad yield last year. It was just a tough cotton year. So our final yield was 776 pounds per acre. We haven't completely gotten paid for our cotton crop yet because the marketing cooperative that we use pays us throughout the following year. But I'm guessing when it's all said and done, we're going to wind up with an average price of about 92 cents per pound. Revenue a little over $700 per acre. All right, now for costs. Fertilizer last year we spent $134.58. Seed was cotton seeds by far the most expensive that we plant, $92.50 per acre. Herbicides was $58.62 per acre. Insecticides was $39.38 per acre. As you can tell, we got to spray cotton all the time for bugs. We don't apply a fungicide to cotton. And we got another line item here, defoliant, where we got to spray to the crop to make it ready for harvest. $16.97 an acre. All right, then you take our overhead costs out. There ain't much room for rent right there in that profit right there. All right, as you can tell, but on our 100% share ground, the ground that we actually own and we don't have to pay any rent, we did make a small profit off of it. And we did have quite a few acres that we had cotton on ground that we actually own. But throw that rent in there, $110 an acre. Oh, that put us in the red big time. All right, 2/3 share. Landlord's got $232.78. We're in the red big time. 80/20 ground, which we didn't actually have any cotton on 80% shares, 20% shares, but this is what it would have been if we had. So $139.68. in the red, big time last year on cotton. One thing I didn't mention earlier, I meant to. You look on this 2/3 share column, the $232.78 that the landlord gets paid. That's not what their net is, because remember, they're sharing in fertilizer, insecticides, fungicides, and cotton defoliants in this case. So you take their cost off of that $232.78 per acre. They still made more than the landlords on the 80%, 20% share did, but they didn't make $232.78 an acre profit. All right, what are we looking like for 2022? Hopefully going to be a lot better year. Our 5-year average, even with that bad year last year in there, is 1,070 pounds an acre. I'm forecasting an average price of 97 cents per acre, which December cotton is over $1 a pound. You got what we could get back in cottonseed. You could have between a 2 and 4 cent lint premium. We don't know all of that, so we're going to be conservative. We're going to figure 97 cents per pound gives us a gross revenue over $1,000 an acre. Fertilizer projected to spend $116.88. Seed $94.11. Herbicides going up big time, $78.65. Insecticides going up a little bit, $40.77. No fungicides. Defoliants probably going to be up to $22.23 per acre. Rent $110 an acre. 2/3 share, $338.80 an acre. 80/20, 203.30. We're looking like we could have a really good profit potential on cotton this year compared to soybean. Again, I think that 62 bushels an acre would be a little optimistic compared to corn. Theoretically, I might like to increase my cotton acres some more, but our harvesting capacity is so much slower with cotton. We're going to have about 500 acres of cotton. We get much over that, it really cuts into other things like wheat planting or whatever else, and we got to also consider that right there. We got real good profit potential on cotton. Now, if we make what we can make in a good year, say 1,150 pounds an acre, shouldn't be any problem as long as we don't have any kind of weather problems or big insect problems. That profit potential goes up big time. Or say we make that 1,070 an acre and we get say $1.03 per pound. Just a few cents swing in the cotton price can really drive that profit potential up quite a bit. So that's what those three crops look like. Now let's look at wheat, followed by double crop soybeans. Now, if you've been watching this, we planted a record number of acres into wheat this year, which will be double crop with soybeans, just because the profit potential I thought was going to be so much better than everything else. So let's take a look at what this looks like. Last year we had fantastic year yield wise on wheat and soybeans. We averaged 99 bushels an acre, got an average price of $5.87 per acre. On our soybeans, we averaged 58 bushels an acre, at an average price of $10.06 per bushel. Gross revenue, over $800. Fertilizer on wheat last year spent $144.04. Seed, we spent $18.47 because we save our own seed, and all we got to pay is the seed treatment and the cost of the cleaning, plus what it cost us to not sell that wheat and save it instead, which was around $7 a bushel or so. Herbicides, $31.65 per acre. Insecticides, $1.88 per acre, and then fungicides, $14.09 per acre. That's what our expenses was on wheat. Let's take this out. Now, if you look at this, the profit potential on wheat itself, even with great yields, There's not much profit potential in wheat whatsoever. In fact, if we filled out the rent part of the share rents, that would drop into the negative real quick. Where the profit comes from is in the double crop soybean part. I'll show you why here. All right, our fertilizer cost on the soybeans is $1.94 per acre. That's a foliar fertilizer application that we put in. Our seed cost is $54.04, and that's lower than our full season soybean cost because we only use an inoculant seed treatment on these soybeans as opposed to a full fungicide seed treatment that we use on our full season beans. So that brings the cost per acre down some. Herbicides, $26.93 per bushel. Insecticides, $20.44 per bushel, which was really high last year. Normally, our insecticide cost on double crop soybeans is a lot lower, but we had to go in with a really expensive insecticide to spray for armyworms last year. I think it was about $18 an acre, so that raised that cost up on something that we were not expecting. Our fungicide cost for double crop soybeans, $6.63 per acre. Then let's add in our rent, 110, $388.16 for the 2/3 share because they're getting a full third of the wheat crop and a full third of the double crop soybean crop. And then 80/20 share, $232.92. So as you can tell, we made some dang good money last year off of wheat and double crop soybeans. And again, that's why I don't plant very many full season beans. All the land that I can, I put it in wheat and then put double crop behind it because the profit potential, looking at this right here, of what last year was, is so much better. The wheat is basically there to pay for most of the expenses on that piece of ground for that year, and your profit comes from the soybean crop as long as you can make decent yields on your double crop soybean crop. Now, what does it look like for 2022? All right, our 5-year average on wheat is 80 bushels an acre because outside of last year, the previous 3 years, we did not have good yields on wheat. So that brought our average yield down. Normally, I would expect our average yield to be up close to 85 bushels per acre, but we're going to use our actual 5-year average of 80 bushels an acre. Wheat prices really gone up this year. We're predicting an average of $7.46 per bushel. Most of that's already contracted. Soybeans, our 5-year double crop soybean average is 50 bushels an acre, predicting an average price of 14 bushels an acre for soybeans. Wow, that brings that gross revenue up over $1,000 an acre. All right, cost for fertilizer this year on wheat, $186.41. Most of that's already been realized. Seed cost, same, $18.47. Herbicides, $35.67. Insecticides, $3.38 per acre. Fungicides, $14.41 per acre. And then going down to our soybeans, our fertilizer cost, $1.94 an acre. Seeds, $56.04 per acre. Herbicide, $39.69. Insecticides, $2.31. Fungicides, $6.63 per acre. Rent, $110 for the 2/3 share, $432.22. And rent for the 20% share is $259.39. Look at those numbers. Even with cash rent, taking that off, over $500 an acre profit potential. Even the 2/3 share, almost $285 an acre profit potential compared to cotton, compared to soybeans, compared to corn. And go back to our wheat and double crop soybeans. That right there is why we planted a record number of wheat acres this year because our profit potential is there big time. And hopefully we'll realize it. I'll say our wheat goes up to maybe what we would expect to make. Let's say 85 bushels an acre. That brings up our profit potential quite a bit. Now, if we have a dry year, and double crop soybeans are probably a greater risk of a dry summer than anything else because they do all of their growing mid to late summer when we're typically at biggest risk for a drought. Say that our yields drop down to 30 bushels an acre, which is completely possible. But there goes all of our profit right there. We can still make quite a bit. Well, we'd have to adjust this rent some, but we can still make money off of it, but our profit potential does drop down quite a bit. Well, there you have it, guys. That's what it actually costs us to produce each of these crops on our farm. Again, could be wildly different. Just my neighbor down the road, Dylan Joyce up the road, his costs are going to be different than what mine are. His profit potential might be greater, might be lower. Any other farmer, completely different situation than what it is on our farm. Our farm, our input costs tend to be a little bit lower than a lot of others because we utilize a lot of soil health principles that can help us reduce our herbicide use, our fertilizer use, and a few other things, and also tend to create a little bit higher yields for the type of ground that we farm. There's a lot of other farmers out there that make a lot better yields than what we do, but on the other hand, they probably have they probably have a little bit better ground than what we've got too. Also, the overhead costs can be completely different from one farm to the next. If I had an extra 100 acres of ground to work this year, all those overhead costs would be spread over another 100 acres of ground, but those our overhead costs will probably not go up proportionally. A lot of those costs are fixed costs, regardless of how much ground we work. Just like labor, the labor cost is pretty much fixed because everybody's on salary out here. So that's a big reason that having a large scale operation is very important to profitability because you can spread a lot of your fixed costs over more acres, which draws your cost of production per acre down some. Well, anyway, guys, I know it's a pretty long video, but I know there's quite a few of y'all out there that are really curious about the financial side of farming. I know a lot of young farmers have talked to me that they appreciate these types of videos. So it really shows them maybe how to shape their operation or maybe things that they need to look at in their operation to increase their profitability. So that's the reason behind this video, plus just to educate the general public about what it actually costs to produce these crops. As you can tell, there's a chance to make profit there, but there's really not a big chance to get rich there either. So anyway, guys, I hope y'all found this informative. Appreciate y'all watching. Next video, probably going to be in the shop. We're probably going to be in the shop and getting to work on equipment. I know a lot of y'all been looking forward to that. So y'all stay tuned. We'll be back again shortly.